It's not a sprint. What's the quote? It's not a marathon, it's a sprint. Nope. It's not a marathon. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. I don't know. You know what I'm trying to say. Alrighty, what's up, y'all? I've never done a vlog before, so figured I would give it a shot because we are here in Manhattan for the weekend, staying in the East Village. Alright, I started recording earlier and then stopped because somebody was walking by me and I felt weird, so I had to stop it. There's a few things I wanted to do. I wanted to go to Tompkins Square Bagel. I had to stop again because someone else walked by. The fear of judgment really comes out when you're recording yourself. But you gotta push through the pain, as everyone says. And I also want to go to K&M Rentals. It's a camera store on Broadway, I think, Canal, I'm not really sure. But I want to stop in there today as well. I also want to talk about the value of solo trips and why I really started doing more of them over the last 6 months. It's something I've wanted to do for a long time, but I was always nervous. I never made the time for it. I made a bunch of excuses, but I want to talk about why they're so good today. And yeah, we're just gonna see where today takes us. Some Blank Street coffee, mocha decaf, because caffeine gives me anxiety. Last year, when I hit 25, I was in the shower and it just hit me for some reason that I hadn't done any of the things yet that I really wanted to do. And at that point, I hadn't even visited New York yet, which is one of those things that I wanted to do very badly because I love the city. I had been with other people, but never by myself. So when I turned 25, I had a bit of a crisis, a bit of a mental moment, because I hadn't even taken a trip to New York yet. I hadn't flown on a plane by myself. When you think of the term comfort zone, something different comes to mind for everybody. What's terrifying to one person might be really easy to another person, and so on. For me, I grew up in a small town, and I think it's pretty safe to say that I've lived a very safe and comfortable life so far, which I'm grateful for, but also that led me to be afraid of a lot of things. And I didn't want to be that way. This footage also might be super choppy and with a lot of jump cuts because I keep stopping to talk when people walk by, so I apologize. Lighting is terrible. I've always had the feeling that there was so much more to life than what I was experiencing. And I knew that, and I could feel it on the inside. I just had this feeling in my gut that I just wanted to experience life more. So fast forward to now, I still hadn't really done a lot of the things that I wanted to do as far as traveling, specifically traveling and just going to new places and having different experiences. And when I turned 25, I knew it was time to come to New York. It's crazy because when you have anxiety, your mind makes up every possible thing that could go wrong, how you could be in danger. And something that was holding me back for so long was taking the train. I don't really know specifically what it was about the train, but I do know I was afraid of getting on the wrong train. And I had all these thoughts like getting to the train station, not knowing which way to go, missing the train, getting lost, all of these things. And, I finally bought the ticket and I just went and did it. When I got to the train station, I didn't know where the train was, but I asked somebody and they pointed me in the right direction, and then I literally just got on and went, and that was it. That's to say, we're so much more capable than we give ourselves credit for. Doing things like this in small steps are really important. You don't want to overwhelm yourself. Remember the first trip I took, it was a day trip here, and I was only here for 5 hours. And the feeling of being here was so incredibly freeing. And it made me realize that just the fear of the train and just doing it was all in my head. And then after taking a day trip, it built up my confidence a little more to stay here for a few nights. So I went from a small day trip of 5 hours to staying for 3 nights, and the train being this terrifying thing to feeling really normal. The fear is always valid, but it's because we're always afraid of the worst case scenario. And the reason that we feel that way is because the unknown is a terrifying place. And our body reacts in fear because it wants to protect us from things that we don't know. So it's up to us to show our body and our minds that we are actually safe to do these things. And the more we do it, the easier things get, one day at a time. All right, we're approaching the camera store, but the last thing I'll say is, if there's something that you've been wanting to do for a while, but you haven't done it yet because of fear, it could be something big or something small, it doesn't matter, because everybody's experience is different. But I want you to try and do that thing, or at least take one small step to it, because it's through practice, exposure, and repetition that these things start to feel easier. It's through exposure, practice, and repetition that these things start to feel easier. All right. That's my rant. Now let's go check out some cameras. I just had literally the best experience in that store. Oh my God. Guy I talked to, his name was Mike. So you can tell he just genuinely loves photography so much. We were talking about film, and he was saying how his family gives him a hard time because he's always the guy that takes out his camera on like family holidays and things like that. And he just says, like, in 20 years, you're gonna want this photo. And it's so true that as photographers, how it's just so important to document life every day, because there'll be memories to look back on. The store was just the coolest thing ever. So now that inspired me to take out my camera. So we're gonna take some photos in the East Village. just realized I forgot to say the whole point of why I started talking, which was why I think solo trips are so valuable. I think I kind of covered it, but just the main point is that when you do these things that scare you and they become easier, and then the next thing becomes easier, every small thing that you do that you couldn't do before just helps build your confidence. And that's ultimately how you will start to do the bigger things in your life that you want to achieve. So one step at a time is the way to go. Everyone always says that life starts outside your comfort zone, and that couldn't be any more true. Literally, with my experience too, with social anxiety and just overall anxiety with like overthinking and everything else, college is when I kind of started to force myself to break out of my comfort zone to do things, because I knew there was a lot more that I wanted to do with my life. And I remember, perfect example, at the first networking event that I went to when I was in college, I literally almost threw up before I even went inside because I was so anxious and so worried. And I think what's so important about it especially is that life is just so beautiful on the other side of your comfort zone. There's so much to experience and learn and grow. And I think we're so afraid of the unknown because we're afraid of failing, we're afraid of just not knowing. I think when we get comfortable with the unknown is when the magic starts to happen, because that's where growth is. So I think that's why I'm so passionate about this idea of stepping outside your comfort zone, because for so long I just felt so stuck and I didn't know how to get out of it. And now I know that the only way out is through. And it's by doing the small things, going to that networking event, filming a vlog, even when you've never done one before, and accepting that it's not going to be perfect. It's just embracing that it's not going to be perfect. And life isn't perfect. So once we know that, once we start the small things, the bigger things become not as scary anymore. And that's how you grow. So that's kind of the story that I wanted to tell about these small day trips that I've been taking, because they've built up to weekend trips, and now I'm ultimately planning to move here in the spring of 2023, and I'm just so excited. And comparing it to my life 6 months ago, where I couldn't even get on the train, to now, I'd say I'm really proud of it. And it just, it takes time and it's not easy, but it is so incredibly worth it when we start to see the other side. So I have so many more stories that I can share. I've had an interesting relationship with facing fear and growth and stepping out of your comfort zone. And I know this is only the beginning. There's so much more to experience, but I wanted to make this video today just to kind of step more into that light. So yeah, it's not a sprint. What's the quote? It's not a marathon, it's a sprint. Nope. It's not a marathon. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. I don't know. You know what I'm trying to say. Take it one day at a time. Give yourself grace, because it's not easy, but also understand that you can do it. Anything you want to achieve, you can do. If this brought up anything for you, feel free to share your stories. If this resonated at all in the comments, I'd love to hear. Consider subscribing for this journey that I'm now on. I also just want to say that there's no shame in therapy either. I want to be an advocate for mental health because going to therapy has been life-changing for me, especially in these last 6 months. You know, I had been going while I was in high school also and throughout college, but you know, it takes time. Healing takes time, and there's no shame in talking to somebody to help because, you know, it's not only good for us, but it's also good for everybody else in our lives when we get to show up and be the best version of ourselves. So, all right, I think I'm done. If you enjoyed the video, if you made it this far, thanks so much for watching. And I will see you in the next one.